we do not get what we want. Because the simple act of wanting something is saying that you wish that exists in your life. So the universe is hearing you. Okay, cool. You wish that you have this in your life, so I will allow you to keep wishing. If you're prioritizing the fear of failure, then the universe is going to allow you to do that. The highest priority must be your growth in your character, your growth in your mind and your spirit. Now, this is what's going to give you the highest result out of this.
Welcome to the High Performing Warrior Podcast. My name is Niro, Dayalan. I'll be your host in this journey. And over the last 10 years, I've been working with leaders, with couples, with spiritual seekers, men and women all over the world, helping them achieve the same transformation, win the war that exists inside of us, to gain more clarity, more purpose, more certainty, and to finally step into a world of mental peace and emotional freedom. These podcasts is only a glimpse of the full high-performing warrior training. In these podcasts, you will hear references to the coaches that I have internally. You will hear references to modules and missions. Now, these references or instructions are for the internal tribe, the souls that are participating within the warrior training. And for the listeners, you feel that I'm actually coaching you myself. It's important to me that even though this is a glimpse of the full training, you get an authentic experience. I hope that this episode creates a shift inside of you, even if it's just a little one, just enough to see this world through a new set of eyes, through the eyes of an awakened mind. Because the truth is, your greatest battle is not out there, it's inside of you. And when you face it, when you do the inner work, you don't just survive, you rise. So let's begin.
Today's conversation, I think it's going to land with pretty much every single one of you. This talk was inspired by a lot of you warriors coming up to me because, Niro, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I save my marriage? How do I start the business? How do I, let go of resentment? How do I, change my mindset? And I'm going if there's one thing that you take away in any of the personal development work that you have done or you have ever will do, it is this particular talk that we are going to be talking about. Now, if nothing lands in the books that you read, the videos that you watch, right, in any program that you may do in your life, if nothing lands, let this conversation land. And I promise you, if you step into what we're about to talk about today, you will get success in every and any area of your life. It is, like, I'm breaking this down for you. So it is so simple to understand the concept on how you can transform your life pretty much into anything. Okay. Now, of course, you got to work with, physics and everything like that. So this topic is really called the how is not the problem. The how is not the problem. The how is not what's keeping you stuck. The how is not what you need to know in order to make the change, the transformation. In other words, it's not about knowing how you're going to evolve your change, how you're going to save your marriage, how you're going to start that business. It's about what really drives you. In other words, what are you prioritizing? Now, I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. We do not get what we want. Because the simple act of wanting something is saying that you wish that exists in your life. Okay? You wish. So the universe is hearing you. Okay, cool. You wish that you have this in your life, so I will allow you to keep wishing. Right? In other words, I will allow you to keep wanting. I want to save my relationship. I want to be a millionaire. I want to start a business. Great. It's the wanting that you're after, not the other part. The universe listens to what we are prioritizing. What are you prioritizing? Now, we're going to take a deep dive into this a bit further. We're going to dive into why consistently looking for the how can actually keep you stuck on finding out the how versus getting a real breakthrough and the shift that you are seeking for. Now, often we do find ourselves obsessed about the how. Before we've even decided why we want this or what is it that we really want. We want to know every single step that is required before we even step into the work. I want to know exactly how I'm going to save this relationship, if it's even possible to save this relationship. Can I actually start a business? Am I dependent? Am I strong enough to even start a business, right? And let's face it, the reason why we focus so strongly on the how is because we don't want to fail. We're scared of failing, whether if it's in business, relationship, or even your personal growth. That there is this fear that if we don't have it all mapped out, or if we are not doing it right, something will go wrong. And so why do we do that? Why is it that we are so focused on the how, even before we commit, right? Even before we make the decision to commit that this is the breakthrough that I'm creating. So in a way that we are kind of wanting the universe, God, your partner, the client to kind of figure out that, you are the person that it wants to select. And the reason why we so focused on the how is because it's a form of control. Now, guys, if you are tuning into this talk, I'm going to strongly suggest that you listen to this talk with pen and paper in hand, because there's so much stuff that is going to come out of this. The reason why we focus so much on knowing the how is because it comes from our need to be in control. Sadly, for many of us, control, significance, and certainty. So that's what I mean by control, significance and certainty, right? Is our safety, is a form of it's a safety mechanism. It's our safety net. It keeps us safe from failing or the fear of failure, the fear of looking bad, the fear of feeling inadequate, the fear of being judged, the fear of being abandoned, fear of being rejected. And so if we control everything, all the narrative, the how and the 5,000 steps on how to save your marriage, or the 5,000 steps in creating a business, right? Then at least I will not fail, look like a loser, get rejected, etc., etc. Now, let me give you a bit of an example, right? Some believe that how to control the fear of abandonment and the fear of rejection is by being the nice guy or the good girl. And by doing so, we can control the outcome of other people trying to judge us, resent us, leave us, right? Or, look bad in other people's eyes. Now, this is a need of control that many of us, we get this wrong, because guess what? People are going to judge, right? Not everyone's going to like you, okay? So we're so focused on, how do we control this world so we don't feel like a failure, so we don't get abandoned, so we don't get rejected. I want you to think about this for a second. When you're overly focused on the how to get something done, you're not really leaving room for inspiration or innovation, okay? Are you even focused on what truly matters to you, or are you just trying to avoid failure? I'll say that again. Are you focused? When you're focused on the how, are you even focusing on what truly matters to you, or are you trying to avoid failure? I've worked with numerous business owners, and one of the things that I start off with business owners is really creating a vision for the business. Now, I can't stress how alarming it is that most businesses, especially entrepreneurs more so, that don't have a vision. When I work with them, the vision, or maybe some of these guys, yes, cool, they're ahead of the game and they go, hey, Niro, I've just created a vision. Cool. Most of these visions that I hear from entrepreneurs are aligned towards not failing and not becoming bankrupt, rather than their vision aligned to impacting society in a positive way, or even innovation. Likewise, like I've worked with couples who want to save their relationship because they don't want to fail and they don't want to look bad or they don't want to hurt their children, rather than experiencing love. I want to save my marriage so I can experience love, joy, and intimacy. I want to grow as a human. Now, there is a massive difference versus these two motivations, right? There is a difference that either can keep you moving forward or keep you stuck. Let me give you a real life example. Now, let's say there's a person out there who wants to start a new business. Now, they're spending endless amount of time looking for the perfect business model, studying every possible strategy, looking at every possible industry because they don't really want to fail. And no one really wants to fail, especially in the areas of business and relationships. No one wants to fail. So, they go out there and figure out, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? See, it's their fear of failure that is so strong that these guys don't even end up launching their business. Or they finally launch the business, but they discover that their research, their strategy, hasn't really prepared for the real world business problems, which is going to be 100% the case, guys. If you're ever thinking about starting a business, right, you can do as much research as you like, but when it comes down to the real business, there is real shit that you cannot be prepared for. Now, because of this, now they're stuck, right? Because they've convinced themselves that they can't move forward until they have the how sorted out. Now, does this sound familiar? Yeah, maybe in your personal goal, right? That I want to go to the gym, but I want to know exactly how or what I'm going to train and what body part I need to. Bear with me. You're in your head. You're probably thinking, well, Niro, don't you need to know the how? Well, yes, you do need to know the how, but that's not what's stopping you. That's not what's slowing you down. The purpose of this conversation is really focused on, the how is not the solution here. It's not the problem that you need to be fixing first. Now, there was a study that was done through Stanford University that backs this up. Stanford researchers found that people who focus primarily on the tactical steps rather than the purpose, the passion, the priorities behind the goal are significantly more likely to experience burnout and end up giving up, right? This is one of the biggest reasons why businesses fail within the first 1 to 5 years, right? Is because they're so focused on the how. And focusing on the tactics alone does not engage our deeper emotions, deeper drive. It just reinforces the fear of not failing. See, the how is information. It doesn't provide the emotional or the psychological fuel that is needed to sustain your progress. Now, I don't care what kind of an expert or strategist that you are. Like, I'm a life strategist, right? That's one of the titles that I go at. Now, I don't have one strategy to save a marriage or a relationship. I don't have one strategy to grow a business or to make a team into high performance. I don't have one strategy to do that, but rather I've discovered the strategy once I'm committed. Here's the point that I'm making here, okay? This is the penny drop moment. Once we make what we want a priority, I mean a real priority, we are left focusing not so much on the details and the control tactics because we don't have that emotional connection that keeps us going. But when we connect to that, okay, cool, saving my marriage is a priority, okay? Starting a business is my priority. Becoming a millionaire is my priority. Losing weight is my priority. Once we commit to that priority, we get rid of all of these distractions, the noise, the how, the strategy, all of those things, right? We get rid of the noise, that this pattern that we keep creating in order not to fail. So once you make something so important to you as a priority, see, a lot of people say what they want is important to us, to them, but their behaviors is not in alignment to what they're prioritizing. Now, let me give you an example here, right? I had a client who called me up about 2 months ago. He called me up and he goes, Niro, love your stuff. He's a businessman, entrepreneur. And he goes, Niro, my marriage is in the rocks, right? I'm highly stressed, right? That, my partner's going to leave me. He's going to take the kids, right? I need to do something, right? I'm so motivated to do something. Now, I only work with people that are motivated to change. Okay. So he presented in the way that he really wanted. So I said, yep, cool. Well, this is what I can do. And really figured out what was his problem, what was the cause, right? And to really see if I can help him. And I said, mate, I can definitely help you. Let's start as soon as next week. He gives me a call next week. He goes, Niro, I'm in Bali. I'm in Bali at this yoga trip. I'm going to be here for the next 6 weeks. Hey, bro, didn't you just tell me that your marriage is on the rocks? Is your partner with you at least? He goes, nah, just came here by myself. Didn't you just tell me that your marriage is on the rocks and you want to save it, but now you're in Bali in a yoga trip, right? So this guy extended his 6 weeks into, I think, close to about 9 weeks. He was at this yoga vacation. So he came back home. He gives me a call. He goes, Niro, came back home. My wife is not here. In the back of my head, I'm thinking, no fucking shit, right? No shit. No shit, your wife's not here. And so really, what was his priority here? Was his priority saving his marriage, or was his priority going on this, Bali trip? What's it called? I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling anxious. I just need to go for a 6 weeks Bali trip that ended up at 9. What was his priority there? See, his priority was doing what was easy. That was the higher priority for him, right? His higher priority was doing what was easy rather than doing what was hard. Now, this is the part, guys. This is the part that, pens, papers, right? All of these things, right? This is the part that where I need you to have your pen and paper in hand, right? Have your pen and paper in hand. And this is the second penny drop moment. When we are not certain that this is our priority, we end up prioritizing pleasure over growth. We end up prioritizing pleasure over growth. Now, when I'm talking about pleasure, I'm talking about, like, for example, going on a Bali trip for 6 weeks, right? Life is too hard. Let me just run away and let me go do yoga poses and, all of these stuff, sit by the beach and just kind of chill. Now, I'm not saying that relaxing is not something that something that you don't do. Of course, relaxing is a very important part of the nervous system. So we do need to learn how to relax. But there's nothing that he could not do in that 6 weeks staying at home that can be achieved by just doing an ice bath, for example. Right? So many of us, when we don't understand what we are prioritizing, we end up prioritizing pleasure. In other words, doing what is easy versus growth. In other words, doing what will get you progression. And we're all a victim of doing that, at least right now or at some point of our life is too hard. Let's get on social media. Let's scroll for a bit. See, when we prioritize pleasure, what we are actually saying is that we're prioritizing instant gratification. We want to feel that dopamine hit straight away. So when we keep prioritizing pleasure, we are training our brains to need that hit of dopamine. So we become addicted to that dopamine release. And dopamine is that feel-good chemical, and it's received when we experience something pleasurable or when we do something that's rewarding. Now, this is why we tend to reach for our phones, like I said before, for comfort over doing what is challenging. And pleasure seeking can act like a drug. It feels good in the short term, but it leaves us mentally depleted in the long run. People who are choosing dopamine hit, whether if it's through social media, gaming, watching TV, these guys often struggle. Porn is another example. Now, these guys often struggle with focus, with memory, with resilience. When we are not clear with what our priorities are, we end up choosing comfort over the harder and more rewarding path of growth. Okay. Now, I've spoken to a lot of couples where they say, hey, Niro, I just don't feel valued, or I don't feel appreciated, or I don't feel respected. What that person is saying is that I do not feel like a priority in my partner. Yeah. And this is like, money. I mean, if you read the statistics, people say that money is the reason why the divorce happened or an affair or anything like that. That's not the reason. Your partner has not felt like a priority in your life. I've experienced people who tell me that they want something, but their behaviors is not in alignment of what they want, right? Now, our behaviors will always follow what we prioritize. For example, like, going to the gym. Hey, I want to lose this weight, or I want to get stronger. I want to have a six-pack abs. Great. But when it comes down to the crunch, comfort is a higher priority than going to the gym. Now, this is just one example. Signing up for a program and not really showing up to the program, right? Or signing up for a course. I did this. I started a Bachelor of Business, and it was okay. The course was okay, right? And what I really wanted to do was just hang out with I was a teenager back then. I just finished high school. I started to work, and then I got into the degree. It's like I just wanted to hang out with my mates. Hanging out with my mates was a higher priority than doing this Bachelor of Business. The person that actually cleared this up was actually a guru of mine, someone that I look up to in the spiritual world. Now, I met this guru, the spiritual teacher, probably at a stage of my life that I've been doing personal development and spiritual development for about 5 years. And, he read me. We had this rapport. So I said, mate, just speak to me open and honest. What do I need to do in order to get this spiritual growth really happening? Because, Niro, have you made spirituality a priority? And I said, hell yeah. I read books. I watch a lot of YouTube clips. I meditate as often as I can, right? Because you're doing all the how really well. You're reading, you're figuring out how to do it. But are you playing with spirituality, or are you stepping into spirit? And hit me like a ton of bricks. Because truth be told, up to that point, up to that conversation, I do believe I was playing with spirit, because I was trying to figure out how I can, I was so focused on how, read books, right? Go to meditation classes, meditate. Now, these are all the how components, but I didn't make spirituality a priority. Now, if I did make spirituality as a priority, what I'm reading is how I'll be living. I will be bringing that spiritual world into that human experience. I wouldn't be looking to find fixes on how to relax. I'll be stepping into the spiritual world where peace, abundance, manifestation, that is a given norm. Creating miracles is a given norm in that spiritual world. And it was then that I realized that all this time I've been playing. I wanted to be more spiritual. I wanted to be more connected to God, but I did not prioritize. And that changed everything for me. Now, let's flip this for a second. Now, what happens when you make growth, character, spiritual development a priority? Well, for one, your brain itself becomes to change, right? Your brain, your physical brain, if growth is your priority, your brain itself will change. So I'll say that again. If you prioritize growth over pleasure, growth over dopamine, right, your brain itself begins to change. Studies from University of Pennsylvania, however you pronounce it, right? Now, it's shown that people that focus on growth, who have prioritized long-term progression, have better resilience and a stronger ability to handle adversity, stress. See, when you're prioritizing growth over pleasure, it actually creates new neurological pathways within the brain that strengthens areas, help you respond to focus, to emotional regulation, and even problems. When you are focused on growth, you are essentially reprogramming your brain. Your brain adapts to challenges, learns to process stress differently to how you did before when you were focusing on pleasure, when you're prioritizing pleasure. And when you develop a higher tolerance to adversity, man, you've built a vessel that can handle challenges in your relationship, challenges in your business, challenges with your team, challenges with your clients, and you're able to come back to homeostasis state regardless of what you're dealing with. See, emotionally, when you prioritize growth, emotionally, you will find yourself more resilient. Psychologically, you'll be more flexible to open to new possibilities. And when you stop the need to control every how and start listening and trusting your capacity to handle the unknown. Now, this is the biggest part. Hear me out. When you are so focused on the how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And sure, whatever you focus at, you will find the answers for. But when you're so focused on the how, right? A question that I got asked, Niro, how do I let go of resentment? And this person was so like going through all my talks on resentment. Okay, cool. Okay, that's not the problem. The how part is not the problem. Are you prioritizing? Is it a priority for you to let go of resentment? Now, there's a difference between is it a priority or would you like to, right? Is it a priority or would you like to? Now, if it's a priority, your focus is going to be laser focused. When we're focusing on too much on the how, we don't learn behavioral flexibility. We're trying to control that these are the 10,000 steps that we need to do to save the marriage. This is the 10,000 steps that we need to do to have, increase our mental health, right? But then we don't actually, when something happens, right, we don't trust our capability to be able to handle it. Now, this idea ties up to a deeper shift. Now, someone that goes for external validation, like, approval and appraisal from others, in order to validate your own self-worth, validating your own growth and integrity. When you're prioritizing growth instead of, when you're prioritizing growth, you're saying that I'm committed to doing what is hard, not what is pleasurable. When you're prioritizing a relationship, you're saying, I'm committed to doing what is required to save this relationship. When you're prioritizing your mental health, you're saying that you're ready to do what is required to level up your mental health. I'm ready to do what is hard over doing what is, okay? Now let's take the example of a relationship. So all of us, we have this fear of abandonment. No one likes, no one likes it. But because this leads to the need to be the perfect partner. If I'm the perfect partner, then my partner won't leave, right? And this nice guy or the nice girl comes out. Now, they're consistently worried on how to keep their partner happy, how to say the right things, how to avoid conflict. But this approach always backfired. Resentment starts to build. The relationship becomes shallow because there's no focus on genuine growth or genuine vulnerability. Instead, if you were to prioritize your own emotional growth, right, you start up by showing differently, right? You're not driven by fear of abandonment or the need to be perfect. You're driven by a commitment in becoming a stronger person. Now, this depth of shift, right? When you are coming out there declaring that, I'm committed. I'm committed to make whatever it is that you're after, relationship, mental health, business, whatever it is. I'm committed in making this a priority. Guess what? The how just unfolds. The universe bends and turns and, makes way to whatever you are prioritizing. Like the way you may find, like it's so easy to do pleasurable things. Yes, because the moment you make pleasurable things comfort, doing what is easy a priority, the universe bends and turns to make sure that you can do more pleasurable things, more comfortable things, more easy things. But like with everything in this universe, there is a law of cause and effect. You keep doing what's easy, life is going to be hard. You do what's hard, life is easy. Now, this is something that I'm teaching right now. This is a lesson that I wish I knew at 10, 12, 11, 16, at any time that is earlier than when I did learn it. If you do what's easy, in other words, pleasurable, comfortable, life will be hard. If you do what's hard, life is so much easier. I'm going to wrap this up, right? In the sense of like when the fear of self-doubt, fear of failure kicks in, remember, it's not the how that you're lacking, right? It's a clear sense of what you're prioritizing. If you're prioritizing overthinking, overanalyzing, then the universe is going to allow you. If you're prioritizing the fear of failure, then, the universe is going to allow you to do that. If you're prioritizing the fear of failure, the fear of abandonment, failure, rejection, the universe is going to allow you to do that. But when you're holding your priorities towards growth, now, this is the one thing that, people are asking me, Niro, how many priorities can I have? Well, if you've got strong levels of mental toughness and resilience, right, you can have up to 5 priorities. So you can have, travel, career, relationships, mental health, character, like you can have up to about 5 priorities. But if your mental toughness is developing, I would strongly suggest that you have one and allow that priority to be your growth, the growth of your character. If we end up getting more, if we end up getting more money, getting more fame, getting more wealth, getting more love, there is significant amount of responsibility comes with getting that. Makes sense? If you're a sole entrepreneur, so one person entrepreneur, the responsibility is just you. But if you've got a team of 20, then the responsibility is massive. Now, if you're single, all you have to do is take care of yourself. Now, if you're in a family of 5, then your responsibility is a lot heavier. So I'm not saying not to have that responsibility. What I am saying is grow your character so that you can handle the more love, the more joy, the more peace, the more fulfillment, because all of those things come a list of responsibilities. So if there's one priority that every single one of us need to have, no matter at what stage it is in your life, no matter what your mental toughness is, the one thing that you do have to prioritize is you, and more specifically, your growth. What I mean by that is that if you feel that you need to relax, right? You're not going out there because you've had a stressful day and everything's going out there. You're not going out there to spend 6 hours of watching TV, but rather you're going to go out there and regulate your nervous system. You're going out there to actually relax, right? To relax your nervous system. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't watch 6 hours of TV. Of course you can. If you've built a life around that, you're welcome to do that. But if your lifestyle is in contradiction of what you are creating, then this is the part that you really need to question. If you really need to save your marriage, or if you're in the final dollars in your business, then potentially watching 6 to 8 hours of TV is probably not the priority that's going to make you the difference. If there is one priority, no matter how big or how small that you're starting off with, it has to be you, because you are the person that is handling the load of your mental, of, your family's load and the business load. It's you. And if you're not around, or if you are, off with the pixies, or if you're mentally disconnected, right, your business and your relationship are the people that are going to suffer from it. The highest priority must be your growth in your character, your growth in your mind and your spirit. Now, this is what's going to give you the highest result out of it. And then, as I said before, it's not what you think you want, it's what you prioritize. And when you do this, decisions get a lot easier. Relationships get a lot deeper. We find ourselves able to deal with challenges and have the courage rather than the fear. We make decisions from a place of alignment, not from a place of fear of failing. Our vision will be in alignment to our soul rather than the fear of failing. So here's my call to action to all of you. Make your personal growth, your character, your mind, your spirituality, the highest priority. Stop trying to control how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I make me a priority? Right? The last thing I want you to do is go out there, go to Google, because Niro said I need to make myself a priority. So how do I make myself a priority? Right? If you're doing that, you've missed the point. Stop trying to control the how narrative and instead focus on who is it that you are prioritizing in becoming. And you will find as you grow, the how will reveal itself. Trust the process. Stay committed to your priorities and watch how much power you will unlock within yourself. I know that this is relevant for every single one of you If you feel that this is not relevant to you, I would ask you to go back to the start of this episode and listen again. Until next time, guys, I love you. Take care. I'm wishing you all the very best. Bye for now.
I hope this episode really spoke to you. And if it did, don't just keep it to yourself. Share it with at least one person who you know that needs to hear this today. And more than that, talk about it. Have a connecting conversation about it. Because growth doesn't just happen by listening to it. It happens through reflection, challenge, and action. And if you're ready to take this deeper, to end the battles that are happening inside of you, to step into clarity, courage, and the peace of a warrior, then let's talk. Click on the link below or jump into www.unconventional.com.au. Unconventional is spelled with a K, not a C. Book in a time, a free call, and let's have a conversation if this journey is right for you. There's absolutely no pressure to join. This is just a conversation to see how the warrior training can help you awaken your gifts, your purpose, to overcome your limitations and fears. Until next time, keep doing the inner work. This world, this universe needs you and the greatness that's inside of you.